What if I told you that the moment fire touches the body, when someone is cremated, something amazing happens to the soul that nobody talks about? What if choosing between burial and cremation isn't just about what you like or what your culture does, but about two completely different spiritual experiences that can affect the soul's path for many years after death? Edgar Cayce, the famous sleeping prophet whose psychic visions changed thousands of lives, didn't just see into the mysteries of past lives and future events. He saw something that will change how you think about death, cremation, and what happens to our awareness when the physical body is burned by fire. And what he found will either bring you deep peace about cremation or make you completely rethink your plans for your own final arrangements. 'Cause here's what nobody tells you. The way your body is handled after death doesn't just affect your physical body. According to Cayce, it creates completely different experiences for your leaving soul, different challenges, different opportunities, and different timelines for your move to spiritual worlds. Have you ever wondered why some cultures respect cremation as the ultimate freedom, while others think of it as a spiritual wrong? Why some people feel naturally pulled toward the idea of being cremated, while others feel deeply bothered by it? That feeling might be your soul trying to tell you something important about your spiritual needs after death. Stay with me, because what Edgar Cayce showed about cremation and the soul's path will either confirm what you've always felt, naturally, or shock you into understanding why this choice matters more than anyone ever told you. If you're already feeling something moving as you think about these possibilities, if you've always had strong feelings about cremation that you couldn't quite explain, drop a comment and let me know. Are you drawn to cremation, or does something about it feel wrong to you? And if you're ready to explore these deep mysteries about death and the soul's path, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're diving into truths that could change how you approach the most important transition you'll ever make. Now let me take you behind the curtain to discover what really happens to the soul when the body is cremated. The moment of truth. It all begins with understanding what Edgar Cayce called the Great Separation, the exact moment when the soul's connection to the physical body is permanently broken, and how cremation affects this sacred process in ways that might amaze you. Picture this: someone has just taken their final breath. To those watching, it appears that death has happened. But according to Cayce, the soul's departure from the body is actually a slow process that can take anywhere from minutes to days, depending on how attached the individual soul is to physical life. The soul doesn't instantly pop out of the body like a cork from a bottle. It slowly, gently pulls away from the physical form that has been its home for many years, sometimes staying near the body as it processes the reality of death and gets ready for its journey to spiritual worlds. But then comes cremation, and everything changes. The moment fire touches the body, something amazing happens. The strong heat doesn't just burn physical matter. It creates what Cayce described as instant and complete separation between the soul and any remaining energy connection to the physical form. For some souls, this instant separation is exactly what they need. Souls that have been holding on to physical life, not wanting to let go of earthly attachments, suddenly find themselves completely free. The fire forces the release they couldn't achieve on their own. Cayce saw that these souls often experience what he called freedom through flame, a sudden dramatic freedom that pushes them immediately toward spiritual worlds without the slow transition period that usually follows death. But for other souls, this instant separation can be jarring, even shocking. Souls that were in the process of naturally slowly pulling away from the body suddenly find themselves pushed into complete spiritual independence before they were ready. It's like the difference between slowly walking into deep water versus being pushed off a cliff into the ocean. Both lead to the same place, but the experience is completely different. And here's what Cayce discovered that will change how you think about cremation. The soul's experience of this instant separation depends entirely on the individual's spiritual growth and their relationship to physical life. Advanced souls, those who have developed strong spiritual awareness and little attachment to material reality, often do well with cremation. The fire becomes a sacred tool that instantly frees them from any lingering physical bonds, allowing them to soar immediately into higher dimensions. But souls that are deeply attached to physical life, those who have lived mostly material lives with little spiritual growth, can find cremation confusing and frightening. They're suddenly cut loose from everything familiar without the slow adjustment period they need. This is why some people feel naturally drawn to cremation, while others feel deeply disturbed by the idea. Your soul already knows what kind of transition it will need when your time comes. But the instant separation is just the beginning of how cremation affects the soul's path. Because what happens next shows even more deep differences between cremation and burial that nobody talks about. The path of flames. The second major difference Edgar Cayce discovered about cremation involves what he called the path of flames, a unique spiritual experience that only souls who have been cremated go through. And it's unlike anything that happens with traditional burial. When the physical body is burned by fire, something remarkable happens in the spiritual dimensions. The strong energy of cremation doesn't just affect the physical world. It creates what Cayce described as purifying fire on spiritual levels as well. This spiritual fire burns away what Cayce called etheric attachments, energy leftovers of earthly experiences, emotions, and relationships that normally take much longer to release after death. Think of it this way: every experience you have in physical life leaves an energy mark on your soul. Every relationship, every trauma, every strong emotion creates what are basically spiritual leftovers that need to be processed and released after death. Normally, this clearing process happens slowly over what could be months or even years in spiritual time. The soul slowly works through its attachments, processes its experiences, and eventually achieves the energy clarity needed to move forward in its spiritual growth. But cremation speeds up this entire process dramatically. The spiritual fire that comes with physical cremation burns through these etheric attachments in a matter of hours rather than months. It's like spiritual chemotherapy, intense but incredibly effective at clearing what needs to be cleared. For souls that are ready for this sped-up clearing, cremation provides an amazing gift. They come out of the process spiritually purified, immediately ready for higher spiritual experiences, without the long processing period that usually follows death. But for souls that aren't prepared for such fast spiritual processing, cremation can be overwhelming. They might need time to slowly release their earthly attachments, to slowly work through their experiences, to gently transition from physical to spiritual awareness. Forcing these souls through rapid purification before they're ready can create what Cayce called spiritual shock, confusion that actually delays their spiritual progress rather than speeding it up. This is why Cayce stressed that the choice between cremation and burial should be based on spiritual readiness, rather than just personal preference or convenience. If you're someone who has spent your life developing spiritual awareness, practicing meditation, working on emotional healing, and building detachment from material concerns, cremation might be the perfect choice for your soul's transition. But if you're someone who is deeply attached to physical life, who has lived mostly for material pleasures and achievements, who hasn't done much inner work on emotional and spiritual issues, burial might provide the gentler transition your soul will need. And here's something that might surprise you. This isn't about being spiritually advanced or not. It's about being honest about where you are in your spiritual growth right now. Some souls come to Earth specifically to experience deep attachment to physical life. That's their curriculum. For these souls, cremation might not serve their highest good, not because they're less evolved, but because their spiritual plan requires a different kind of transition experience. If this is making you think about your own spiritual growth and what kind of transition might serve you best, I want to hear about it. Share in the comments whether this information is confirming feelings you've already had about cremation, or if it's making you reconsider choices you've made. When you engage honestly with these deep questions, it helps our entire community explore these deep spiritual considerations together. And if your reflection shows real spiritual seeking, I'll mark it with a heart to acknowledge your courage in dealing with these mysteries. But the purification process is just one part of how cremation affects the soul. Because what happens to the soul's connection to the earth and to loved ones left behind shows even more important differences that could influence your choice. The breaking of earthly bonds. The third deep difference Edgar Cayce discovered about cremation involves what he called the earthly disconnection. How cremation affects the soul's ability to keep connection with the physical world and the people left behind. When someone dies and is buried, their physical remains continue to exist in the earth for many years, sometimes centuries. According to Cayce, this creates an ongoing energy anchor that allows the soul to keep a subtle connection to the physical world when needed. This doesn't mean the soul is trapped or earthbound. It means they have the option to return to physical nearness when circumstances call for it, to comfort grieving loved ones, to provide guidance during family crisis, to participate in important family events like weddings or births. Many people have experienced this. You might have felt the presence of a deceased grandparent at your wedding, sensed a departed parent watching over your children, or received what felt like a message from someone who had passed away during a difficult time in your life. These experiences are often possible because the buried remains provide what Cayce called an earthly anchor, a physical focal point that makes it easier for the soul to connect with the material world when love and need call them back. But cremation changes this situation completely. When the body is burned by fire, the earthly anchor is destroyed. The soul becomes what Cayce described as fully spiritualized, completely oriented toward spiritual worlds, with much less ability to connect back to physical reality. For some souls and families, this complete spiritual orientation is exactly what's needed. The soul is freed from any temptation to remain attached to earthly concerns and can focus entirely on their spiritual evolution and growth. But for other souls and families, the loss of this earthly anchor can feel devastating. Family members might struggle with the sense that their loved one is completely gone, unreachable, unable to provide the comfort and connection that other deceased family members seem to offer. And some souls themselves might find that they need more time to slowly release their connections to earthly concerns. They might have unfinished business, ongoing worries about family members, or deep attachments that require a slower, gentler release process. Cayce saw that souls who were cremated sometimes struggled with what he called spiritual homesickness, in reverse, a longing to reconnect with earthly experiences and relationships that was no longer possible due to their complete spiritual orientation. This doesn't mean cremation is wrong or harmful. It means it creates a different kind of after-death experience that serves some souls beautifully, while challenging others. Think about the person you're considering cremation for, yourself or a loved one. Are they someone who has always been deeply connected to family, to place, to earthly concerns? Are they the kind of person who would want to keep some ability to connect with loved ones after death? Or are they someone who has always been spiritually oriented, someone who would prefer complete freedom from earthly attachments, someone who would do well with total focus on spiritual growth and evolution? These aren't right or wrong answers. There are simply different spiritual needs that call for different approaches to death and transition. But there's another part of cremation that Cayce revealed that might be the most important consideration of all: how the choice between cremation and burial affects the soul's next incarnation. The imprint on future lives. The fourth major revelation Edgar Cayce shared about cremation involves something that most people never consider: how the way your body is treated after death can influence your soul's preparation for its next incarnation. According to Cayce, the experiences your soul has immediately after death, including the method of body disposal, create what he called transition imprints that affect how your soul approaches its next physical incarnation. When someone is buried, their soul keeps a slow, gentle relationship with physical matter as the body slowly returns to the earth over many years. This creates what Cayce described as a natural rhythm of release that mirrors the slow organic process of letting go of one incarnation while preparing for the next. Souls that experience this slow release often find it easier to come back to Earth again when they're ready. They keep a comfortable relationship with physical matter, so taking on a new physical body feels natural and welcoming rather than foreign or limiting. But souls that experience the instant complete separation of cremation often develop what Cayce called matter resistance, a spiritual hesitancy about re-engaging with physical life that can delay their next incarnation or make it more challenging. This isn't necessarily negative. Some souls are meant to spend a long time in spiritual worlds between incarnations, focusing on spiritual learning and development that doesn't require physical experience. For these souls, cremation might actually serve their long-term spiritual plan by making the transition to pure spiritual existence easier and more complete. But other souls have rapid incarnation cycles. They're meant to return to physical life relatively quickly to continue learning lessons that require material experience. For these souls, cremation might create unnecessary obstacles to their planned spiritual progression. Cayce also discovered that the transition imprint from cremation affects how souls relate to their physical body in future incarnations. Souls that were cremated sometimes come back to Earth with what he called body hesitancy, difficulty fully living in and enjoying their physical form. These souls might struggle with physical pleasure, have difficulty being present in their body, or feel disconnected from physical sensations and experiences. It's as if the intense separation of cremation creates a spiritual memory that makes full physical embodiment more challenging in future lives. On the other hand, souls that experience the slow natural release of burial often come back to Earth with greater comfort and ease in physical form. They're more likely to fully enjoy physical pleasures, feel at home in their body, and successfully combine spiritual awareness with physical experience. Again, neither approach is naturally better or worse. They serve different spiritual purposes and support different types of soul development. But understanding these long-term effects might influence your choice about cremation, especially if you have natural insights about your soul's plans for future incarnations. Some souls come to Earth knowing that their current lifetime will be their last on Earth, or one of their last. These souls might find cremation perfect for their needs, as it supports their transition to permanently spiritual existence. Other souls come to Earth knowing they have many more physical lifetimes ahead of them. These souls might benefit from burial, as it keeps their comfortable relationship with physical matter and supports their planned return to material existence. The key is tuning into what your soul actually needs, rather than making decisions based only on convenience, cost, or cultural expectations. The sacred choice. Now that you understand the deep spiritual effects of cremation versus burial, how do you make the choice that's right for your soul or your loved one's soul? Edgar Cayce provided specific guidance for recognizing which approach serves each soul's highest good, and understanding these indicators might completely change how you approach this decision. First, consider the person's spiritual growth in relationship to material life. Someone who has spent their life pursuing material goals, collecting possessions, and finding their identity through external achievements might benefit from the gentler transition of burial. Their soul likely needs time to slowly release these attachments, but someone who has spent their life developing spiritual awareness, practicing meditation, and building detachment from material concerns might do well with the rapid purification of cremation. Their soul is already prepared for immediate spiritual focus. Second, pay attention to the person's natural relationship with the element of fire. Some people are naturally drawn to fire. They love fireplaces, candles, bonfires. They find fire comforting, purifying, transformative. These people often have souls that would welcome cremation as a natural extension of their affinity for fire's transformative energy. Other people are uncomfortable with fire. They prefer earth elements, find fire anxiety-provoking, or feel most peaceful in natural earthy environments. These people often have souls that would prefer the earth-based transition of burial. Third, consider the person's attachment to place and family. Someone who has always been deeply rooted in specific locations, who feels strong connections to family land, who wants to be remembered and visited at a specific place, might benefit from burial. Their soul might need the earthly anchor that remains provide, but someone who has always felt like a global citizen who doesn't feel attached to specific places who prefers to be remembered through their influence rather than their physical location might find cremation more aligned with their spiritual nature. Cayce also stressed the importance of considering the needs of surviving family members. Sometimes a soul might personally prefer cremation but choose burial because their family needs the comfort of a physical place to visit and remember. Other times a soul might prefer burial but choose cremation because their family would benefit from the sense of complete spiritual freedom that cremation represents. The most important factor, according to Cayce, is making the choice consciously, rather than defaulting to cultural expectations or convenience. When you understand the spiritual effects of this decision, you can choose the approach that truly serves the highest good of everyone involved. If you're thinking about this choice for yourself or a loved one, spend time in quiet reflection or meditation. Ask your soul what kind of transition would serve you best. Pay attention to your natural reactions, your dreams, your inner insights. Often souls know exactly what they need if we're willing to listen to their wisdom rather than our fears or cultural conditioning, the deeper mystery. But there's an even deeper mystery about cremation that Edgar Cayce revealed, something that goes beyond individual choice to touch on humanity's collective spiritual growth. According to Cayce, the increasing popularity of cremation in modern times isn't just a practical response to limited land or changing cultural values. It's a reflection of humanity's speeding spiritual development and our collective preparation for a new phase of existence. As more souls come to Earth with advanced spiritual development, as humanity as a whole becomes more spiritually aware, cremation becomes a natural choice for souls that are ready for rapid spiritual transition and complete focus on non-physical growth. The fact that you're even watching this video, thinking about these spiritual mysteries, suggests that you might be part of this advancing wave of human awareness. Your soul might be naturally drawn to cremation because it's spiritually prepared for the sped-up transition that fire provides. But Cayce also warned against assuming that spiritual advancement always means choosing cremation. Some of the most spiritually advanced souls specifically choose burial because their mission requires keeping connection to earthly life to serve humanity's spiritual growth. These souls might return as guides, teachers, or healing presences that help other souls navigate their own spiritual development. For this service, they need the earthly anchor that burial provides. The key insight is that both choices can serve spiritual advancement, but in different ways and for different purposes. What matters most is making your choice from spiritual awareness rather than unconscious assumption, from soul wisdom rather than cultural pressure, from love rather than fear. Whether you choose cremation or burial, the most important factor is approaching death and transition with awareness, preparation, and trust in the greater spiritual plan that guides all souls toward their highest growth. This brings us to perhaps the most important part of Cayce's revelations about cremation, how understanding these mysteries can change your relationship with death itself and help you live more consciously while you're still in physical. Vermate the living preparation, understanding what Edgar Cayce revealed about cremation, and the soul's path does more than help you make end-of-life decisions. It provides a roadmap for how to live right now in ways that prepare your soul for the most beautiful possible transition. Regardless of whether you choose cremation or burial, if you're drawn to cremation, you can begin preparing your soul for rapid spiritual transition by practicing detachment from material concerns in your current life. This doesn't mean becoming irresponsible or ignoring your physical needs. It means developing the spiritual perspective that recognizes material experiences as temporary gifts rather than ultimate realities. You can practice meditation, study spiritual teachings, build compassion for all beings, and work on releasing attachments to outcomes you can't control. Every moment you spend developing spiritual awareness makes you more prepared for the sped-up transition that cremation provides. If you're drawn to burial, you can prepare by developing a healthy, conscious relationship with physical life that honors both your spiritual nature and your material experience. This means fully engaging with life while keeping awareness of its temporary nature. You can practice gratitude for physical pleasures, develop deep connections with place and community, work on healing family relationships, and create positive legacies that will comfort loved ones after you're gone. Every moment you spend loving consciously makes you more prepared for the slow, gentle transition that burial supports. But regardless of which choice feels right for you, the most important preparation is the same: developing a relationship with death as a sacred transition, rather than a terrifying ending. When you understand death as your soul's graduation from the school of physical life, when you see it as a doorway to greater spiritual adventure rather than the end of awareness, everything changes about how you live. You stop putting off joy until someday and start finding it in present moments. You stop avoiding difficult conversations and start expressing love while there's still time. You stop living for others' approval and start following your soul's real guidance. You begin to see your entire life as preparation for the moment when you'll transition from physical to spiritual existence. And this perspective changes every choice, every relationship, every experience into something sacred and meaningful. If this understanding is shifting something in how you see life and death, share it in the comments. Let our community know how these insights are changing your perspective on living and dying. When you express these deep reflections, it helps everyone explore these deep truths together. And if this exploration is opening new levels of spiritual awareness for you, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our continued journey into these sacred mysteries. Share this video with someone who might need this understanding about death, cremation, and the soul's path. Your sharing might provide exactly the spiritual perspective they need, the sacred fire within. As we near the end of our exploration into Edgar Cayce's revelations about cremation and the soul, I want to share with you the most deep truth he discovered about this entire topic. The real fire that matters isn't the physical flames that might burn your body after death. The real fire is the spiritual flame that burns within you right now. The sacred fire of awareness that no physical flame can ever touch or destroy. Whether your body is cremated or buried, whether your soul experiences rapid purification or slow release, whether you keep earthly connections or achieve complete spiritual freedom, none of this changes the fundamental truth that you are an eternal being having a temporary physical experience. Your awareness, your love, your wisdom, your essential self, all of this survives death regardless of what happens to your physical form. The method of body disposal affects the transition experience, but it doesn't affect the survival and continuation of your soul. Understanding Cayce's revelations about cremation isn't meant to create anxiety about making the perfect choice. It's meant to help you make a conscious choice that aligns with your soul's real needs and spiritual development. But more importantly, it's meant to remind you that death is not the end of your story. It's simply the next chapter in an eternal adventure of spiritual growth and evolution. The physical world is just one classroom in an infinite university of awareness. Whether you graduate through the rapid transformation of cremation or the gentle release of burial, you're moving on to new experiences, new learning opportunities, new ways of serving the greater good of all existence. Your soul is indestructible. Your love is permanent. Your contribution to the cosmic story of awareness evolution continues forever. The sacred fire that truly matters is already burning brightly within you. The fire of awareness, compassion, wisdom, and love that you've been developing throughout this lifetime. That fire needs no physical flame to purify it, no earthly anchor to sustain it, no external validation to prove its reality. That sacred fire is who you really are, and it's eternal. The choice of love. So as you think about the choice between cremation and burial, make it from love rather than fear, from wisdom rather than worry, from trust rather than anxiety. Choose the option that feels most aligned with your soul's real nature and spiritual needs. Choose the approach that honors both your individual development and your love for family members who will be affected by your choice. Choose consciously, but don't choose perfectly. There are no perfect choices in spiritual development, only choices made with awareness, love, and trust in the greater plan that guides all souls toward their highest growth. Whether your path leads through the purifying flames of cremation or the gentle embrace of earth burial, you are surrounded by infinite love, guided by perfect wisdom, and supported by the entire universe in your journey toward spiritual fulfillment. The real secret Edgar Cayce revealed isn't about cremation versus burial. It's about approaching death and life with the awareness that you are an eternal spiritual being, whose adventure continues regardless of the physical circumstances that seem to mark its temporary endings. You are more than your body. You are more than your current lifetime. You are more than any single choice you might make about how that body is treated after your awareness moves on to its next great adventure. You are a sacred flame that burns eternally, adding your unique light to the infinite constellation of awareness that is the true nature of reality. Make your choices from that understanding. Live your life from that knowing. Approach death from that trust, and rest in the certainty that whatever path your soul takes through fire or earth, through rapid transformation or gentle release, you are always held in perfect love and guided toward perfect fulfillment of your spiritual destiny. The sacred fire within you knows the way. Trust its guidance, honor its wisdom, and let it light up not just your choice about cremation, but every moment of the precious physical life you still have to live. Your soul's journey is magnificent, regardless of how it transitions from this physical experience to its next spiritual adventure. Choose from love, live from awareness, and trust the eternal flame that is your truest nature. The mystery of cremation reveals the greater mystery of awareness itself. That you are eternal, indestructible, and infinitely precious to the universe that created you. That truth remains constant whether your path leads through physical fire or earthly embrace. And that truth is all you need to know to make any choice with confidence, peace, and love.